I've helped someone who was a kitchen fitter for 15 years, and he moved into doing SEO and content. Someone else was a dance choreographer on a cruise ship, and she ended up moving into a HR role. So
Wow.
there's entry level roles out there for people who are wanting to completely career switch and really don't know what they want to do.
Hey guys, I'm AJ.
I'm Shanique.
I'm Tazi.
So in 2018, we quit our jobs to travel the world and live a freedom lifestyle.
We wanted to share our journey with you.
So welcome to the family.
Alright, so hey family, welcome back. It's Shanique from FroFamilyTravels, and today, guys, I am so excited. You know, I'm all about remote opportunities and finding ways to secure online income so you can travel and live around the world. And I have been praying for this kind of opportunity, and it's finally here. I was connected with Michelle over LinkedIn, and I'm so grateful that she's taking the time out of her busy schedule to chat to us. And she's going to be talking more with us about how to secure remote opportunities, remote jobs, genuine remote first opportunities, which I know a lot of you guys are looking for. So yes, very excited to have you here, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for having me, and welcome to everyone else, wherever in the world you are.
Awesome, thank you. So my understanding, Michelle, is you are actually a remote recruiter yourself. And you also have founded a website named Remote Rebellion that helps people to find remote work, true remote work opportunities. So please tell us more.
Yeah, so I was a recruiter for about 7 years before I set up Remote Rebellion. And I introduced a remote work policy at the company I was working for. This was back in 2016, 2017, when I realized this was the way it was moving forward. And I begged and I pleaded my boss. I worked in an office in London for this international organization. I was recruiting across the world. And I was recruiting software engineers. And a lot of them were like, I won't accept it unless it's remote. And I was like, oh, you can do like 2 days a week remote. They're like, nope, that's not enough. And I'm like, okay. So I was pushing and pushing. I managed to get up to 4 days a week remote with my boss, which was a win back in 2016, 2017. Then the pandemic happened, and obviously everyone went working remotely, myself included. And I realized, hey, I could go elsewhere. I could move out of the UK once the borders opened up, of course. And I thought, okay, I'll seize the opportunity. I'll go to Bali until my boss calls me back in and the office opens up. So I did, and then when he called me, he was like, hey, I'm still in contact with him now, actually. He's like, Michelle, it's time to come back to the office now. The office is opening. I'm like, why? I've been working from here fine for the past like year, 2 years. Why? Company policy, computer says no, sort of like for all those who know Little Britain. And I just was like, this is BS, I don't understand why. Give me a good reason. And there wasn't one. People say tax, legal, blah, blah, blah. So that's when I was like, right, well, I quit. I love my life here and I want to stay. And I didn't have any savings. I had a flat I had to pay for in London. It was a little bit like, it was risky.
Wow.
So I went looking for a remote job, figured I've been in recruitment for 7 years. I'm good at what I do. I've got a good network. I know how the system works. I'll pick a job up like that. But it wasn't that easy. And I was searching for about 2 months, applying, doing everything I can, reaching out to my network. And I was like, this is hard. This is not the same as looking for an on-site role. I really realized how different it was. And that's when I switched up my strategy. And I was like, I was figuring all these things out, getting loads of resources, helping people with their profiles, helping them with interviews. And I was like, more people need this, and people don't have my recruitment background. And that's when I had this ping moment of like, I can help other people do the same thing. Once I got 2 freelance gigs where I was helping remote first companies hire. And that's when I had the ping. I was like, I want to help the job seeker. I want to help them find the right remote role for them.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I want to go back to one of the points that you meant, because this is something a member of our community asked about actually. She said, the reason that her employer said that she can't be remote is because of tax implications. Because if she moves abroad, they're going to be liable to pay tax, in insert country. You're, I'm getting the impression this is not the case. So tell me more.
If that's the case, then why are so many companies allowing work from anywhere? How did they
Exactly.
do it?
How
Do
do
you
they
think they're
do
just
it?
breaking the law? Like,
Right.
I can't stand this BS excuse. It's just like, it's an excuse. It's what it is. It's because they either can't afford, which is the case in some companies, they can't afford to go for a third party. Maybe, let's say that's a valid excuse, or they just can't be bothered. They don't want to look into it.
Yeah.
And that's that's the what it comes down to, in my opinion, because you can hire someone as a contractor or as a freelancer, and then the responsibility in most cases is on the individual, not on the company. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
The second one is to go through an employee of record, which that's a third party organization who handles all of the legal, all of that stuff. They do it on behalf of the company. So there are ways to do it, and that's why there's so many work from anywhere companies that exist. It's just trying to find them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It clearly exists and people are doing it. So it didn't seem like this was quite accurate. So really, we've got employers that are just being lazy and either can't afford it, or they're being lazy and can't be bothered to find out how. But it's definitely
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. So then, if one of our members are interested in work remote, they can work from home and they would like to move abroad, they just need to have the conversation with their employer about making that happen.
Exactly. And there's ways around this. I invite everyone who is working for an organization that they want to stay working for. A lot of people want to stay working for that
Yeah.
organization. They like the job, they like the
Yeah.
people. They just want to live somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like it's some kind of crime that they want to like move to somewhere they actually want to move to. So the way to do it, first of all, is start gathering a list, or like a folder of wins. That is everything that you're doing well. Start gathering any clients, customers, colleagues. They're sending you emails saying you're doing a great job, that you increased the revenue by X, or you did any kind of data that you've got. Start collecting that and putting it in a folder. And you need to show your value. Can I swear on this?
I don't have an
Not
issue with
allowed.
that. Go for
The
it.
children are listening, because they're not going to bend over backwards for a shitty employee. So
Yeah.
you need to be a good employee. You
Yes.
need to show your worth. And it
Yes.
comes down to really simple. You are a service. You're offering a service to the organization, and they are paying you for that service.
Yeah.
It boils down to that. They're not your family. They're not your friends in most cases. So why would they bend over backwards and break a rule that they maybe have just for you, when they can
Yes,
go and
true.
get someone else for this amount of money? Yes, it's going to cost them more money. Yes, they'll have to retrain, but you need to sell that to them. You need to be like, in so many words, in a nicer, softer tone than I would manage. I am worth it for you to keep, and these are the reasons why. So you need to
Yeah.
make these adaptations, and there's ways of actually selling your pitch of why you should be allowed to work remotely. And I put it down to laying it on a little bit thick about how you working from the location you're working now isn't working for your mental health, isn't working for your productivity. Exaggerate if you need to. Isn't working for you having to care for a loved one or being there for your family. But boil it back down to your happiness, not just your happiness, but your happiness equals your productivity,
Yeah.
because that's what they want to know about.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, they want to know, are you going to be a better worker?
Yeah.
And a happier worker is a better worker.
Is
So
a
there's a
better
way to phrase
worker.
that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it seems like facts, really, because I think, some of the news articles that I was seeing from across the pandemic while people were working with home is actually, a 4-day week, or, working from home, people are being more productive. They are getting more done. And they're not just kind of lazing about in the office, kind of chatting to co-workers when they could be at home just getting on with things. So it seems like it actually has worked out for a lot of people.
Yep, it has.
Cool. That's really powerful to know. And hopefully a lot of our people will find that really useful. So how?
I just
Sorry.
want to add a little bit onto that because I think people feel like they don't have the power right now. There's so many redundancies and so many layoffs
Yes.
happening that people have this fear and this fear of like, I should just, be grateful for what I've got. I shouldn't rock the boat because maybe they'll get rid of me. Maybe they'll make me redundant. I should be grateful I've got a job. Yes, of course, you should be grateful that you have these opportunities when other people are not so lucky. However, you still have some power because you are a service that you're offering to that business, and the business wouldn't survive without its
Without you. Yeah,
employees. So just
absolutely.
remember that rather than thinking I shouldn't be going for what I want, I should be content with what I have. There's a difference between being grateful for what you have and still striving for something that's going to make you happier.
Yes, very, very true. So, another question that comes up often is how easy or difficult is it actually to find remote work? Because when I was looking for our community and seeing what kind of roles are out there, I'm going online and I'm seeing sometimes 300-400 people applying for a role. That I kind of put me off. I was like, oh my God, how on earth could I apply for a role knowing that there's 400 applicants? Like, is it really tough? Is it, kind of hundreds, sometimes almost thousands of people applying for one role?
Yeah. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, it is. It's difficult. And I see the positive in that is it's opened up the globe to all of these people who didn't yet have opportunities
Yes.
in US companies, European companies. And I'm seeing like a lot of the clients that I've been working with are in parts of West Africa or in parts of Latin America, and they never got a look in before because they didn't have these
Yes.
opportunities open up to them. So I see that as a positive of like,
Yeah.
yes, there's more competition, but for global mobilization, it's a positive thing. We should see that in a positive light. As for, is it difficult? It is. But the way I see it, nothing worth having is ever going to be
Comes
really
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
And you just need to approach it in a bit of a different way. So some people, I'd say 99% of the people that I'm working with Remote Rebellion never had an issue getting a job before. They're solid, amazing people with great communication skills. They've got a lot to give. They've worked at big names. And now they're like, what's happening? I never had an issue before. And it's because the remote job market is so much more competitive. So just to
Yeah.
give you some stats on LinkedIn, this is just for US remote roles. But in 2022, there were only 15% of jobs on LinkedIn were remote. And that's including those ones that are actually labeled as remote and are actually fake remote, as a lot of us have seen. And 50% of all applications were going to those 15%. So that just gives you some
Wow.
context of the
Yes.
competition. So that's why
Yes.
you've got to approach it in a different way. You've got to have a different strategy. You can't just do things the same way you were doing things before.
And what could that strategy look like?
Too long to go through on this call. Like I have a whole 12-week program that goes through this, but in a nutshell, it's figuring out what you want and getting a really clear picture of that. It's approaching it that isn't just LinkedIn and your CV. Your CV probably counts for about 20-25% of the piece of the puzzle. There's so much more to this than that. Getting yourself out there, being visible, networking. Everyone uses the word networking, but no one's really doing it right. And and approaching it with a different mindset and attitude with the way that you've been doing things in the past, and actually tracking those applications as well. That there's a whole load more to it, but they're the things that I think in terms of a structure, that's what people should be doing.
Cool. And you said the first thing you said is knowing what you want. So a lot of people tend to feel that the only opportunities out there for remote work are in tech or marketing, for example. Is that true?
No, the people I've helped over the last 2.5 years, I did the data on this the other day. I was just going to do a post. And of those, only 17% were in tech. So all of the other were in ops, finance, legal, education. So the opportunities do exist. Don't get me wrong, there's less of them, but they do exist.
They absolutely exist.
Yeah.
And what about for, say, someone that's never worked online or, remote before? I don't know. Let's say, for example, a nurse or a teacher. Is this still kind of someone that could be looking for remote opportunities?
Yeah, I've helped someone who was a kitchen fitter for 15 years, and he moved into doing SEO and content. Someone else was a dance choreographer on a cruise ship, and she ended up moving into a HR role. So
Wow.
there's entry-level roles out there for people who are wanting to completely career switch and really don't know what they want to do. But it's really hard because they're like, I just want a remote job, I just want to travel.
Yeah.
But because they're going out there just going for anything, it's a little bit like turning up on a date and being like, I'll accept casual and I want to get married and have kids. You'd be like, oh, if this person's a bit desperate, it doesn't come across well.
Of course. So, what would you say to people that are searching online and they're like, this job says it's remote, but actually when I open it up, I'm seeing mention of, maybe you'll have to come into the office once, twice a week. Is that really a remote job? Can we call that a remote job? And how do we actually know if something is truly remote?
There's nothing that winds me up more than fake remote jobs. And you might have seen some of my posts on LinkedIn. I am banging on about it all the time. The first thing you do, if you find one, send it to me so I can call them out and I can stop this, because I'm sick of companies doing this. It's hybrid. Call it what it is. That's fine. If you want an office, I'm not anti-office, but call it what it is. Stop trying to get clickbait.
Yes.
It really annoys me. And there's different versions. There's remote from a country. There's remote from a time zone maybe, or from a region, and then there's work from anywhere. So it can be fully remote. The definition of remote is not having to go regularly to an office.
Yes.
So if it's remote from the UK, for example, then that is still remote. That just might not be the level of remote that you're looking for. You might be looking for a work from anywhere organization, and they are harder to find than a country specific because of the whole legal implications and the company having to do more of the paperwork essentially.
Yes.
So the best thing to do would be, don't just focus on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn isn't monitoring and tracking these companies, and I've been going at them for ages to get them to create another filter and be stricter on this. I think there's a whole other thing at play behind this around the real estate companies having a backhand, but this is a whole conspiracy theory that we can maybe cover on another topic. But I don't believe that LinkedIn doesn't have the functionality to be able to filter out these companies that are putting them remote when it's not remote. So I would get off using that as your main platform. Find other job boards. I've got a list of 120 specialist job boards that have a remote filter. So finding one that's specific to you, and also focusing on companies that are remote first, that are genuine remote first, and seeing what opportunities they have and reaching out to them directly as well.
Cool. A member of our community wanted to know, how do remote first companies offer support? So we're thinking in terms of orientation, training, handovers, complaints. What does that look like in a remote first company?
Hard to say, because every company is different. It depends on if they've only ever been remote and they've been remote from day one. They usually have the shit together pretty well. But if it's an older organization that's maybe gone remote since 2020 and they're still figuring things out, they might not have nailed it. So it really does depend. It is typically some combination of having a messaging service like Slack or Notion or something like that, and having a one source of truth or documentation such as Trello or Notion or something along those lines. It really does depend. So some companies are better than others, just like on site.
Yes, of course. And what about in terms of negotiating salary? Is it common that some remote companies might offer you a lower salary package because you're remote?
I used to say no to this, but yeah, it's happening. And I've even had it before where they've had a job posted at a certain salary and then they've reduced it based on where someone is based. And yeah, it really doesn't sit well with me. It does happen, but just because a role is remote doesn't necessarily mean that you will be paid less than an on-site role. Again, it depends on the company, it depends on the industry, depends who you're targeting, but not necessarily is the really short answer.
Right, but possible, but definitely possible.
Yeah.
Understood. And can you tell us more about your website, Remote Rebellion? How can people make the most of your website in helping themselves to secure a remote job?
Yeah, of course. The Remote Rebellion, I have the Remote Job Academy, and what that is it's a program that will help people to get remote jobs. So the steps I was talking about before, about the analyzing, figuring out what you want, how to get that, and going through step by step. I'm working with people through that program, either if it's a self-paced program or on a one-to-one or a group setting. And what that is, it's not just an online course that they do, but we'll have weekly calls. There'll be a community of other remote rebels in that community where you can share advice, share tips, get support, have the accountability of having those weekly calls as well. I'll give them a peek behind the curtain of what it is to be a recruiter, how we think, what we look at, a bit of harsh reality sometimes of like this is how someone is looking at your CV, they're scan reading it, they're seeing these bits, these are the bits we're not looking at. This is how to use LinkedIn properly and optimize it so that you get recruiters reaching out to you with opportunities, so you don't have to make as many applications as well. So really going step by step through the process. And I say to people, it's not all about your CV. People think they just need to get their CV done. The program itself is 10 modules. We don't get to the CV resume part until 5, so till halfway through. So there's all that foundational work and really important layered before getting into actually taking action.
Okay, and yeah, this is about where the sound got really bad. So I'm going to try and summarize up the rest of what Michelle was saying. She said that in this program, there has to be a real mindset shift, because she is not about promising that she's going to be able to secure you a job in 2 weeks. No, there's a holistic process to this, and she wants you to be empowered to know how you can do this by yourself. Throughout her program, she's going to help you to learn how to find these opportunities, to be able to apply to jobs effectively, and to know how to interview so you can actually impress and get the job. Because most people end up just shooting their shot out at a few applications and just hoping that something's going to land in their lap. And the honest truth is that's rarely going to happen. You can actually use these existing platforms to put yourself in a position to have companies and employers approach you directly. But you have to be proactive and know how to not come across as desperate. So we're going to have a quick look at the Remote Rebellion website. So here she actually has a free job board that you can access, and this is updated every week. So you can see the truly remote opportunities, and you can see here some that are specific to the region as well. And this is the page where you can access the Remote Job Academy, and this is where you can sign up to her 12-week program. She has a do-it-yourself option, and also upgraded options where you can directly work with Michelle as well. She is offering our community 10% off when you sign up for any of her programs. You just have to use the code FroFamily. And Michelle also wanted to let us know that you could find her everywhere on the internet by searching Remote Rebellion on LinkedIn, especially is where you'll see her giving tips and tricks for how to secure your next remote opportunity. We are so grateful to her for spending the time with us today. I know that I've definitely picked up some new knowledge about how to secure a remote role, and I hope that you have too. Thanks again for joining us, family, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.